Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual. My name is Utsav Parekh and here are the top stories of the day. Hezbollah launched a barrage of more than 200 rockets at northern Israel. Several more missiles and drones were also fired. The barrages marked the largest attack by Hezbollah since it began pounding Israel in October last year. This comes after 3 Hezbollah members were killed in an earlier Israeli strike on Lebanon. It included the death of top Hezbollah commander Abu Talib. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Hamas has proposed numerous changes to the Gaza ceasefire deal. However, senior Hamas official Osama Hamdan has denied putting any new ideas forward. Instead, he blamed Israel for rejecting the proposal and accused the U.S. of supporting its ally. The leaders of the Group of 7 nations are converging in Italy for their annual summit. The G7 summit is scheduled to begin today and last until June 15th. The ongoing Ukraine-Russia war and Israel-Hamas war are expected to dominate discussions. Migration, artificial intelligence and climate change are also expected to be on the agenda. Besides the G7 nations, leaders from Ukraine, Brazil, the UAE, India and other nations will also be joining in. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also headed to Italy to attend the summit. According to US officials, he will likely meet Joe Biden on the sidelines of the summit. The Indian Prime Minister is also scheduled to speak with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. However, the details of the Indian PM's meeting with Meloni are still being worked out. Joe Biden will be signing a new security agreement with Ukraine on the sidelines of the G7 summit. The agreement does not make a specific monetary pledge. However, it will reportedly include American assistance for Ukraine for the production of weapons and military equipment. An agreement has also been reached on how to provide Ukraine with up to $50 billion backed by frozen Russian assets. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will announce up to $310 million in assistance for Ukraine at the summit. It is expected to be used for emergency humanitarian aid and to rebuild critical energy infrastructure which has been targeted by Russia. This is part of a $3.1 billion military aid package to Ukraine, which Sunak agreed to in January this year. Chinese Premier Li Qiang arrived in New Zealand this morning. He was officially welcomed in a traditional ceremony in the city of Wellington. Li Qiang's visit marks the highest-level Chinese visit to New Zealand in 7 years. During the rare visit, Li pledged greater trade cooperation with New Zealand. At least 49 people have been killed in Kuwait after a fire broke out in a building housing workers. Over 40 of those that died were Indian nationals. Meanwhile, 50 others were injured, out of which 30 were Indians. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed grief over the loss of lives and announced a compensation for the deceased. Meanwhile, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also spoke to his Kuwaiti counterpart to take stock of the situation. Argentina's Senate passed a sprawling bill that is key to President Javier Milei's economic reform plans. The approval for the bill came after 11 hours of heated debate among lawmakers. This happened as protesters clashed with the police outside the Senate building in Buenos Aires. Demonstrators hurled stones and Molotov cocktails and set cars on fire. Meanwhile, riot police fired water cannons and tear gas at the protesters to disperse them. Meanwhile, protests also erupted in Armenia over a peace treaty with neighboring Azerbaijan. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said that the peace treaty was close to completion. After this, clashes broke out between the police and demonstrators. Police fired stun grenades at protesters that had massed around parliament. Demonstrations have escalated in recent weeks, with Armenians denouncing the Prime Minister's policies and demanding his resignation. In South Africa, the African National Congress seems to have reached an agreement to form the government. The Inkatha Freedom Party will join a unity government with the ANC and the Democratic Alliance Party. Last week, the ANC said that it would form a national unity government, but it was still struggling to find coalition partners. This comes as the country's parliament is set to convene on Friday. Rwanda has accused the United Nations of lying. This is after the UN alleged in court that asylum seekers sent from the UK to Rwanda could face persecution in the country. Britain's controversial plan to deport migrants to Rwanda has been mired in legal challenges. But British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government has insisted that he will proceed with the plan if he wins the July 4th general election. Meanwhile, a UN report shows that nearly 120 million people were displaced across the world in 2023. This is due to continuing conflicts in regions like Gaza, Sudan and Myanmar. The number is up from 110 million a year ago. In climate news, Indian meteorologists have predicted that heatwave conditions will intensify in northwest and eastern India. According to their data, rainfall is not expected in North India for the next 6 to 8 days. The monsoon may pick up, but only by the end of June. This summer season's first heat wave has hit the country of Greece. Due to sweltering temperatures, the authorities have closed schools and historical monuments. In some parts of Greece, the temperature was predicted to have crossed 43 degrees Celsius. A massive wildfire broke out in the U.S. state of Nevada. It broke out in Sparks City. Dozens of firefighters rushed to the site to contain the raging blaze. According to local authorities, the wildfire is now 50% under control. Meanwhile, record rain and flash flooding has inundated southeastern Florida in the U.S. The severe weather conditions led to the delay of hundreds of flights. Some roads and vehicles were completely submerged. Weather experts have predicted that more rain will hit the region. 8 climate protesters interrupted the annual congressional baseball game in Washington, D.C. They ran into the field wearing T-shirts that said, "End fossil fuels." Some of them were holding Palestinian flags as well. The police later arrested the protesters and escorted them off the field. According to a Ukrainian study, the war with Russia has resulted in huge carbon dioxide emissions. Experts say that 175 million tons of carbon dioxide have been released into the air. The major contributors are attacks and repair work. Africa's Great Green Wall will not be able to meet its 2030 goal. The project is meant to restore degraded landscapes and boost economies. It was launched in 2007 to reinstate 100 million hectares of land. The project is only 30% complete. On to business and tech news. The US Federal Reserve has decided to hold interest rates unchanged. This is even as the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, said that consumer prices have eased in recent months. Powell noted that they still need more time to achieve inflation targets. The Federal Reserve has maintained its interest rates at a 23-year high since July last year. The US Central Bank has suggested that it may lower the rates in late December. Meanwhile, consumer prices remained largely unchanged in the US last month. Consumer prices rose by 3.3% in May compared to 3.4% in the previous month. Data showed that inflation eased largely due to a sharp drop in fuel prices. Food prices saw some marginal increase. Meanwhile, healthcare and educational services became more expensive. Meanwhile, India also reported its monthly inflation data yesterday. Inflation eased to a 12-year low in May this year. Data showed that consumer prices rose by 4.75% last month. Inflation eased mainly due to low fuel prices. The prices of food and beverages remain unchanged. The United States announced a series of new economic sanctions related to Russia yesterday. This includes Chinese firms selling semiconductor chips to Russia. The US said that these sanctions aim to restrict Russia's ability to procure advanced US technology from other countries. Washington has imposed numerous sanctions on Russia since the start of the Ukraine war. The European Union plans to impose new import tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles starting next month. The EU says it will impose extra duties of up to 38% on Chinese EVs. These cars are already attract a 10% import tax. The EU says that the tariffs are in response to a surge of EV imports from China. The EU claims that it is hurting their domestic EV industry. China has said that it will take measures to safeguard its rights and the rights of its automakers. Indian snack maker Haldiram's is reportedly planning to an initial public offering or IPO. This comes as acquisition talks with foreign investors have stalled. Earlier, it was reported that the owners of Haldiram's were in talks with investors to sell the firm. They had received a bid from a consortium led by American investment firm Blackstone. American logistics firm FedEx is planning to cut up to 2,000 jobs in Europe. These layoffs will spread over 18 months and impact back-office workers. This comes as FedEx has been struggling with slowing demand. The layoffs aim to save the company up to $175 million a year. Tesla shareholders voted on CEO Elon Musk's $56 billion pay package today. Earlier this year, the pay package was nullified by a US court. Musk said that the resolution that aims to reinstate the pay package was passed by a wide margin. It was seen as a vote on Elon Musk's leadership at Tesla. Meanwhile, former SpaceX workers have filed a lawsuit against Elon Musk. The workers claimed that they were fired after publishing an open letter against Musk. Workers accused Musk of fostering a sexist work culture at the spacecraft firm. The lawsuit includes charges of sexual harassment and discrimination against Musk and SpaceX. Apple briefly overtook Microsoft to become the world's most valuable company yesterday. Apple's share prices surged by 4%, taking its market value to over $3.29 trillion. However, the share prices later retreated. Apple's market valuation settled at $3.27 trillion at the end of the trading session. Meanwhile, Microsoft's market value stood at $3.28 trillion. Moving to sports, we begin with cricket and the ongoing T20 World Cup. India qualified for the Super 8 stage of the tournament after they defeated the United States by 7 wickets yesterday. The US batted first and scored just 110 runs in their innings. India chased down the target in the 18th over as Suryakumar Yadav made an unbeaten half-century to seal the win for the men in blue. India remain unbeaten in the T20 World Cup with 3 wins, and now they face Canada in their final pool match on Saturday. Meanwhile, the West Indies fought back to beat New Zealand by 13 runs in last night's thriller. The co-hosts batted first and scored 149 runs in 20 overs. Batsman Shafane Rutherford scored a scintillating unbeaten 68 from 39 balls. During the chase, New Zealand were restricted to 136 runs in their innings. With this, the West Indies have also reserved a spot in the final 8. Moving to football, Lionel Messi intends to finish his pro career with Inter Miami. Messi said that although he was not ready to leave the game yet, Inter Miami would be his last club. The Argentine footballer joined the Major League Soccer club last summer after leaving Paris Saint-Germain. He is on contract with the American club till 2025. Bayern Munich are reportedly targeting Liverpool defender Joe Gomez. The club's manager, Vincent Kompany, aims to bring the seasoned talent ahead of his first season in Germany. However, Liverpool are likely to issue a firm hands-off warning to Bayern. That's because they do not want to lose one of their most valuable players. Meanwhile, Chelsea are considering a shift in their position over selling Conor Gallagher. They could make a concentrated effort to agree to a new deal with the midfielder. Gallagher will be out of contract at the end of next season, and he is wanted by both Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur. Italian club AC Milan have reportedly held talks with Aston Villa over a move for Matty Cash. Aston Villa has likely valued the right back at over $25 million. Cash has established himself as one of the Premier League's most consistent defenders since joining Villa in 2020. The Italian club Juventus have appointed former Bologna boss Thiago Motta as their new manager. The 41-year-old has signed a 3-year deal until June 2027. He replaces Massimiliano Allegri, who was sacked 2 days after he led the side to the Italian Cup. In tennis, Spanish stars Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz will partner for the men's doubles at the upcoming 2024 Paris Olympics. The duo will start their campaign on the 27th of July at Roland Garros, home of the French Open. Meanwhile, the Paris Games are likely to be Nadal's last Olympics. The Spanish tennis star is reportedly considering retirement after this season. In basketball, the American basketball legend Jerry West has died at the age of 86. West played in 9 NBA Finals with the Los Angeles Lakers and won the title in 1972. He was the third player in NBA history to reach 25,000 points. West was also the inspiration behind the National Basketball Association's logo. The International Olympic Committee has recommended venues for the Winter Olympics in the years 2030 and 2034. The French Alps have been put forward for the 2030 Winter Olympics. Meanwhile, Salt Lake City in the US has been recommended to host the 2034 edition of the Winter Games. The venues will formally get approved at the IOC's meeting after the Paris Olympics. In entertainment news, American footballer Travis Kelce revealed that he loves spending time in the kitchen with Taylor Swift. In a press conference, he revealed that Swift makes great Pop-Tarts and cinnamon rolls. Kelce and Swift's love story began in September last year. TV presenter Gayle King revealed that Oprah Winfrey is in the hospital. She's been hospitalized due to a stomach flu. Oprah had to be put on a drip for hydration. This comes after Oprah's absence on the CBS Morning Show. Singer Kevin Jonas recently underwent treatment for skin cancer. Jonas revealed on social media that he had a mole which turned out to be skin cancer. He urged his followers to get their moles checked as a precautionary measure. Indian singer Diljit Dosanjh will appear as a guest on Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show. He took to social media to express his excitement. According to reports, he might perform traditional Bhangra on the show. The cast members for director Ryu Seung-won's film Hamint have been finalized. Actors like Zo In-sung, Park Jeong-min and Park Hae-jun have been cast. The filming will begin in October this year. Hamint is an espionage action film about the clash between South Korea and North Korea. Actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson suffered an elbow injury on the sets of The Smashing Machine. Johnson revealed that he sustained significant impact to his right elbow. He will have to go under scans to assess the extent of the injury. Jason George has decided to reprise his role in the popular medical drama series Grey's Anatomy. He will join the cast as Ben Warren for the show's 21st season. George had left the show after season 14 to help the launch of a spin-off series called Station 19. Director Yann Demange has exited Marvel's Blade. The cause of his exit is not known. Mahershala Ali remains aboard to play the lead role in the film. 1998's Blade was Marvel's first film. 50-50. Netflix will air New York City's hot dog eating contest live. The competition is held annually on the 4th of July. About 20 contestants compete in the competition to become the ultimate eater. In 2023, the winner, Joey Chestnut, ate 62 hot dogs. That's all for this episode of Fast and Factual. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to First Post.